Today we're going to be making some beautiful and absolutely adorable matchbook journals. You can also use them as matchbook notebooks, little notepads. These beautiful little journals are inspired by traditional matchbooks, which of course when you open them up, they would have little matches inside. I absolutely fell in love with the idea of using a matchbook to create a journal, but I didn't want to use vintage ones. I didn't want to use modern ones. I wanted to make my own. So I decided to turn my beautiful papers that I have into a digital that you can basically print out and choose the matchbook that you want to use. I thought it would be fun. So I created this little kit, which I think is adorable. I also wanted to go back down memory lane, and I wanted to create kind of the sister to my Bloom Polaroids. This time I wanted to make some vintage photo film strips. Remember when you would get your photo developed, that would be those beautiful film strips. Typically they're very dark, orange and black, but I wanted to create them in the colors that we all know and love, and create some bare ones so that you can add your own photographs on them, and then some with sentiments on them with flowers. Really beautiful photographs that could go beautifully in any journal that you can also cut apart individually. They kind of look like postage stamps too, which I thought was really cute. So you can always cut them to include a lot smaller in a journal, like for instance for our matchbook journals, cutting these individually into thirds would be perfect to fit in here and add cute little pictures and sentiments on them. And I also wanted to create some journal cards that you can easily put into your journals. Make them as pockets, which they're the perfect size for pockets, but I wanted to continue with the theme of photo film strips, but turn them into journal cards. And then I got a little bit more carried away and I decided to do some full page photo film strips. And these are meant to be folded either in half to decorate a page to use as a pocket, or you can cut these individually. This way you have individual film squares that you can add into your journals. I left some blanks that you could do journaling on them, or you can also cover them up with your own photographs. Since these are printables, you can print them out as many times as you'd like and cover them up if you desire to do so. I'm also going to be using some new floral papers that are in my shop as well. I wanted a very nostalgic feel to these florals. Kind of like you're looking at your grandmother's tablecloth. This one is so beautiful. It's from some French fabric from the 1800s, and I loved creating it into a paper. This is from some beautiful wallpaper. This reminds me of some wallpaper that my grandma had in her kitchen. Just such bright and cheerful colors. This is from a hanky for my collection. I love how you could go around and journal in the empty spaces. This is also a beautiful hanky that I have that I wanted to turn into a full paper, because imagine if you folded this in half, how gorgeous would that look? So I'm going to start choosing the papers that I want to include in my matchbook journal, and then I'll show you how they all come together and how we're going to take individual papers in this cute little cover and create a beautiful journal that you can gift to someone or use inside of your personal journals. Alright, so I have chosen all of the papers that I want to use in my matchbook journal. Now this might look like a lot, and I think it is, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think I'm going to use all of it, but these are the papers that caught my eye. So if you're someone who's new to creating journals, or if you're someone who's scared to cut your paper up, to experiment with pockets and different types of textures with paper, perhaps creating a little journal like this as your first go will make you really excited about creating journals. Some antique music paper, some fabric, bits of wallpaper, some French paper. I'm also using the papers included in the Matchbook Journal Digital Kit. So this is a cover, but I thought it would be fun to fold it and then use this as a pocket. And then also the journaling papers. And then some of the new floral papers, which are super incredible. I love these. They bring me back to being in my grandmother's house, like seeing her linens, her wallpapers. Just, it makes me feel very cozy. And that's kind of the feeling that I want with these matchbooks. I want them to have that nostalgic feeling when you see them, when you open them, and then when you flip through them. So now I think it's time to start cutting up my papers, filling up my matchbook journal, and then I'll show you how they look like before I stitch everything together. Alright, so I have my matchbook pretty much stuffed with the base of the papers. And what I mean by base is just the papers that are still not decorated. Just the papers that will make up the foundation of the matchbook journal. So here's the little matchbook cover of the journal, but I wanted to give it a pop of color when you opened it up. And this is from one of my floral papers that are in my shop. I just thought that would be so lovely to open it up and you see this design. And then when you go through the actual papers that I chose, this is from my designer cards. The back is blank, so this is where I'm going to be gluing on the matchbook journaling papers that are included in the kit. I'm going to glue that on the white spaces. This is some music paper going to be used to create a pocket here, and then on the pocket I'm going to be cutting up one of the matchbook journal covers that I printed on copy paper. So I finished passing my matchbook pages through the sewing machine, and I created the pockets, so the pages that we folded over. This is from one of the film strips, a little linen piece. I thought that would be lovely to include. And then on the back I have some of that hanky paper. This would be a really great journaling spot. This is some fabric. What I think would be really sweet is adding a sentiment on it. I'm going to add a little bit of glue just on the center of it so that it holds it in place and it doesn't move when I'm passing it through the sewing machine. And this is pretty much how I always do my projects. I think I'm done with it until I go back and I add more decorative pieces just to make it more personal. I honestly love these papers as is. On the back, however, I am interested in putting this flower on there. It's really, really beautiful. And I think it would look really lovely right up there at the top. I think in my little bowl, I have the word fresh. Yes, yay, I found it. I have the word fresh. And that's exactly what I think when I see that photograph. I just think of freshness, like a fresh summer morning. Oh, I love that. This is looking so cute. Then here in this pocket, it would be sweet to add a tag. I really love how that linen tag looks right there. Perfect. Then this is the center of our matchbook. Ooh, I really love how this one looks. I think I'm just going to take this one and cut it. And I did pass all of the pages in the middle through my sewing machine, just so that they would stay in place, but you do not need to do that. Since the binding method is going to be with just a little bit of some ribbon, you don't even need to bind your little matchbooks. I decided to name it A Book of Poetry as it inspired me so much, you guys. I had no idea that 2 by 3 inches of paper and different types of papers like this in a very organic way would inspire me so much. And I love this notebook. I love this notebook slash journal. It really calls to me, and I used scraps of papers left over, things that I had already, and combined them kind of like a creative puzzle that spoke to me. So I decided to dedicate this book to my poems. I am really big on poetry. I love reading poetry books and I like writing my own poetry. So in this book, I'm going to be filling it up with words like behind the pictures. I'm going to be putting some sentiments. Here I did a little doodle and I just wrote one of my poems down on the back of that French paper. Here on the back of the fabric, I added one of the tags. I basically took one of the tags that are included in the Matchbook journal kit, and I just cut the top so that it would just turn into a piece of decorative paper instead of a tag. I glued it on the back of the fabric as I loved the image, and then I loved the script, and I added a little sticker here. That beautiful fabric on the back, and then here on the hanky from my hanky papers, I decided to journal within the area that was blank. And I love this so much. On the back, I have a pocket full of written treasures. So in here, kind of like a matchbook, you know, like little matches. I thought it would be sweet to have like little pieces of paper and things that I like. And then of course, I want to finish out the book writing a beautiful poem. There you go, you can see it a lot better there. But this is my book of poetry. We now need to attach it to the cover of our matchbook. And what I want to show you so that you can close your little matchbook instead of using a stapler, instead of having to permanently sew it, I want to take the bottom of it and I want to add a piece of paper. Just like that. This way you'll be able to take your paper and fold it over. Just like this. And oh, just by a millimeter I was short. Oh my goodness. You can always use washi to connect. But this way, this will become kind of like your closure. Since I did add a sentiment on the top of my little matchbook flap, I needed to include the strip on the back. However, you can add this on the top as well, whatever works for you. So now that you have your little book ready, you want to open up your matchbook. This is so cute. I love the inside paper as well. You want to go to the center of your notebook, just like this, of your little journal. This is some seam binding. You can use ribbon, you can use string. That's not too thick or too thin, just enough to be able to hold your matchbook together. And then you just want to tie this right up at the top. Tie a little bow, just like this. And you can leave these if you wanted to. You could also tie them into a bow. So you just want to tie one knot and then you can tie it into a bow. If you don't like the look of the bow, you can just tie it into a knot and cut off the excess if you want to. But I like the bow. I think that looks really darling. In this way, you have your journal pages nice and secure into your matchbook. You can flip through them. They're absolutely perfect. I love this. So in order to close it, you want to put your matchbook cover down. Take this flap, and depending on how thick your matchbook is, like you can see, mine's pretty chunky already. But the nice thing about this is that it kind of molds around the thickness of your matchbook. And then once you have folded it over, you then want to take this piece and bring it in the back, just like so. And ideally, these pieces would touch and then you'd be able to like glue them. I have this really pretty blue washi tape and I'm just going to connect both of the pieces together, just like that. Kind of like a belt. Like, you know, when you're trying to put on a belt and you've like gained a couple of pounds and you're like, oh my goodness, it's going to fit. It's kind of like that. I love that the front is still open. So what I normally like to do is add little pieces on the cover. So maybe add some paper, add a tag. These are pieces from the kit as well. Add a little flower. Like, you can seriously go all out with your matchbooks. I am in love with this project, you guys. Can you imagine receiving this in Happy Mail or in a journal or as a gift for a journal? I couldn't be more thrilled with this project. I think it's absolutely darling. All of the papers that we used can be found in the shop if you're interested. The actual kit to create your matchbook journal can also be found in the shop as well as the vintage photo strip. So this is definitely not the only project that I'm going to be creating using this style. I have some other ideas in mind, with this kit, as well as some really cool ideas on how you can use these strips in your journals as well. So definitely stay tuned for a few more videos using these papers and this kit, as it just really makes me full of inspiration. It brings me back, and when you're using things that give you a nostalgic feeling, a cozy feeling, it makes you really happy. So I hope that you guys absolutely enjoyed this matchbook journal. Of course, until next time, I wish you guys so much peace, so much love. I am always thinking about you guys, and I'm always so happy to give you guys a little burst of inspiration, of happiness, and I hope you have an incredible day. Bye-bye, and talk to you soon.